Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Midweek program at the Raulston Arboretum. My name is Blake, and I'm the education assistant here at the Arboretum. And today we are on the visitor center patio because the weather at this time of year is oh so capricious. It's raining, sort of, but not really. It might thunder, who knows? Regardless of that, we've got a program for you today all about garden weeds. We've got our curator, Dennis Carey, here, who has gone. He has scoured the garden. He has found all of the weeds. He pulled them up, actually. There's no more weeds left in the garden, which is fantastic. You always want to be in that position. Obviously, I'm joking. Obviously, that's a pipe dream that cannot happen. But our program today, we're going to learn a little bit about weeds. We're going to learn about their history. We're going to learn about how to control them. And it should be all kinds of fun. Those of you watching this on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. And feel free to leave a comment down below. And with the announcements out of the way, I will pass things over to Dennis to teach us a little thing about garden weeds.
All right. Thanks, Blake. So today, usually when we're here, we're talking about ornamental plants. But we thought it might be helpful, especially to the less experienced gardeners, to talk about weeds as well. Of course, we've all been cooped up inside our house the last couple of weeks with this heat dome over us, and it was 100 degrees for several days in a row, and no one wanted to go outside. And now that it's 10 degrees cooler, we finally got outside, and the weeds have taken over. And it's just nuts out there. They grew so fast in the last couple of weeks. And so we're going to talk about, we thought it'd be a good time to talk about weeds in general. There's hundreds of weeds in southern gardens. And this is only a 45-minute show, and I like to go on and on. So we're only going to talk about 7 weeds today. So 7 summer weeds in southern gardens is our title today. And we're going to talk about kind of some weed stuff in general afterwards as well. And I have some show and tell, some tools and things to show you. We're going to go into some trivia and other kind of cool, to me at least, things anyway. So I came across this quote from JC, "A weed is a plant dealing with an unhappy person." I had never heard that quote before. I thought it was really charming. I had to include it in this talk. And that's exactly what a weed is. The traditional definition is a weed is any plant that is growing somewhere where you don't want it to be, a plant out of place. And of course, that means that human beings are deciding what's a weed and what's not a weed. And just because one person considers a plant to be a weed doesn't necessarily mean another person would as well. And one of the 7 weeds in summer gardens that we're going to talk about today is one of those very things. I'm going to say it's not a weed and you should totally be growing it, even though other people will be like, no, definitely not. So, and we got out of we came out of the summer doldrums last week, and our weeds had taken over the garden, just like in this cartoon here. So the first weed I'm going to talk about is Bermuda grass. Bermuda grass is rampant right now because it loves heat. All right, it grows well from 75 degrees to 99 degrees Fahrenheit. And when I say well, when it gets really hot, it really gets going. It's one of the reasons it's such a bad weed in the gardens. This is a plant that is grown as a turf grass here in the South, but it's a spreader, so it spreads into your garden beds. So even if you want it in one part of your garden, in the turf, it's going to end up in another part of your garden, in your beds, where you don't want it. But of course, a lot of people like to have the fescue turf, and they don't want it in there either. And it will shoulder its way in those situations too. I don't know why it's called Bermuda grass. It's not native to Bermuda. It's not native to the United States either. It's native to a wide area in Europe, Asia, and Africa, and Australia. And it came here in the 1700s. I heard 2 stories. One is that it came in to be used as a forage crop and then escaped because it's very escapey. And the other, that it came in bed straw in the 1700s that they were using on the ships. They had this bed straw with this as a weed in it, and then they got here and they mucked out the ships and they threw all the bed straw into the compost pile in the United States, and they spread out from there. I don't know which one of those stories is true. They're both pretty good, but it is a very tenacious summer weed. It is a perennial grass. So with all of these weeds that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to kind of put them into some sort of cubby hole. And one cubby hole, is it perennial or is it annual? And knowing which type of plant you're dealing with can help you define a control strategy. Is it a grass? Is it a sedge? Or is it a broadleaf herbaceous plant, which we'll just call broadleafs? Or is it a woody plant? Those are kind of 4 other categories that help you pick a control strategy. And then the other area you want to pigeonhole these plants into, is it a weed that's occurring in your turf, or is it a weed that's occurring in your garden beds, or both? So whenever you're dealing with a weed, you want to kind of divvy it up in those 3 ways, and that will help you decide on a control strategy. Bermuda grass gets into your beds and in your turf. It tolerates drought really well. It tolerates drought by going dormant. It'll turn brown even, and turns brown in the winter when it's dormant, but even in the summer, in a really strong drought, it will turn brown and go dormant. And then as soon as it rains, it pops right back up out of it, which is one of the reasons it's so tenacious. We don't like it. This picture here that I'm showing on the slide is here at the Arboretum, and you can see that it is spread from the turf into an adjacent bed and is growing up through a thick stand of Acalypha pendula. And it will, even though it on its own will grow along the ground no more than a few inches tall, once it gets into a thick stand of something, it leans on it and pushes its way up through it and comes out the top. It can push through any amount of mulch. If you throw mulch over top of it, it'll just grow right up through it. If you throw landscape fabric down, it'll poke a hole in the landscape fabric and grow right up through it. It's really a difficult weed to deal with. An indicator, in some cases, it can be an indicator of the compacted soil. If you have a spot in your yard where you want some ornamental to be growing, like some turf grass or some ornamentals, and nothing grows there except Bermuda grass, that's an indication that that soil is compacted. Bermuda grass is one of these plants that can tolerate that and grow into it more so than other plants can tolerate it. A lot of these weeds are indicator plants of some sort of garden problem, and so one of the control techniques to help you push back these weeds is to fix the problem and not necessarily go after the weed, although you do want to go after this weed. Bermuda grass spreads above ground by stolons, underground by rhizomes, and if you let it go to seed, it will spread by seed as well. So it's making itself, getting around the world in a lot of different ways.
It is very escapey, as you said.
Yeah, very escapey. Yeah. And it's kind of pernicious too. Like if you have Bermuda grass in your turf and you mow that turf, and the Bermuda grass has gone to seed, you're actually mowing those seed heads. Those seeds are still viable, and so wherever those grass clippings drop, you've just planted a bunch of Bermuda grass seeds. And if you collect those and throw them in your pile of grass in your yard, your mulch pile, and then spread that around, you've just spread those seeds around. The way around that, of course, is to properly compost your mulch pile. Most people just have a mulch pile which they let dry down and then spread that out thinking it's fine, but you will need to properly compost it, let it get hot, moisten it with some hose water and turn it so that it gets aerated. Those microbes can generate some heat and really kill those seeds. If you don't have a proper compost pile and you have let your Bermuda grass go to seed and you've mown it, and so you have these seed clippings, you want to collect those clippings in a bag and then into the green trash can that Raleigh provides so that they can take it to their composting facility and properly compost it. You don't want to keep that around.
So Dennis, Nancy just popped in with a question. She wants to see a close-up image of the Bermuda grass, which seems to me like a perfect time to show the little clip that we showed, that we made.
Yeah, sure, let's do that. We made little clips for each of these weeds. So this weed here is Bermuda grass. It's one of the more troublesome weeds that gardeners in the South face because it is also a common turf grass, but it's a turf grass that spreads via stolons and rhizomes, and you can see it will spread into your garden beds and actually grow up and through a thick, dense stand of plants. Here we have Acalypha. I've seen it even growing up and through and all the way up and over daylilies. So it will grow up very far if it's given something to lean on. Bermuda grass is a perennial, so it overwinters via underground structures, but it also, if you don't mow it frequently enough, you get these seeds, and it can spread via seed too. And that's actually problematic because the seed, if you're the kind of person who saves your grass clippings and spreads them around, you actually can be unintentionally spreading around Bermuda grass as a weed. So this is Bermuda grass growing in a stand of, in a garden bed, in a stand of plants. Yeah, that was a good close-up, that helped. And actually the botanical name of Bermuda grass is Cynodon dactylon, and that epithet dactylon refers to fingers, and it's referring to the seed heads that are kind of finger-like. Okay, Cynodon is basically the Latin word for dog tooth, and that's one of the common names. We call it Bermuda grass, but other people call it dog tooth, which is a little anatomical feature along the stem, looks like a dog's tooth, so that's how it got its botanical name. So to control it, you want to prevent it from going to seed if you can. If it's in your turf, you're going to mow it. If it's in your garden bed, you're going to have to, and it's growing up through your acalypha, you're going to want to hand pull it, which is very hard to do because you got to have to get those rhizomes out, and it's hard to get them out from underground. You have to really get in there and pull and do a lot of work.
Those stems have a tendency to break if you're not getting down low and getting the whole thing out there, so it can be a real pain. Yeah,
and it's often best to wait until a day or two after it's done raining. And the soil is softer and it's easier to pull these deeply rooted things out. The roots can go down several feet if the soil is loose that far. So there's that. Another control method, if you have it in your turf and you don't want it spreading into your beds, you can do what's called deep edging, which is to install an edge that goes down 6 inches or so and then goes up above the ground several inches as well. So those rhizomes hit it and they go down and hopefully they'll hit some soil that they can't go through. It's not 100% cure, but it will slow it down from getting into your beds. If you want, you can tilt that edging a little bit so that it's facing upwards, so the rhizomes hit it and are directed upwards. Then you can hit them with the weed whacker. And if you tilt it the other way, it'll hit it and go down, and that helps it actually get under the edging. There are some herbicides you can use if you're the kind of person that uses herbicides. If it's alone and there's no other plants around it, you can hit it with Roundup, and Roundup will kill it. Certain times of year, spring and fall, not in the middle of summer, you can hit it with in your turf with an herbicide called Ornomec, which can kill it in a stand of turf. Although Ornomec is also toxic to the turf, so it's all about getting the dose right and getting the timing right so that your turf is vigorous enough to outgrow it, while the Bermuda grass is not yet vigorous enough to outgrow it. So there's a timing thing.
And this is a soapbox that I like to get on with the concentrations of the herbicides that you're mixing, particularly with perennial weeds like Bermuda grass. A lot of people think, oh, we need more Roundup because more poison equals more dead. But the issue with that is if you have too high a concentration of the Roundup, then you'll kill the top of the plant before the plant can translocate that Roundup down to the roots where it would actually kill the plant for good. So if you're using too high a concentration, you're just pruning it basically, whereas if you give it a lower concentration, it may take it longer to die, but it will surely die because it'll actually get the poison down to the roots, down to the rhizomes, where it'll kill the whole plant out. So Dennis is going to say this at some point, but read the label.
I'm going to say it several times.
He's going to say it several times. Read the label and think about what you're trying to achieve. Are you just trying to kill the tops, or are you actually trying to get down to the roots and kill the whole thing? In which case, go on the lower end of the concentration there.
And that's where timing helps too. Oh yeah. Because there are times of the year where the plant is pushing resources down into the roots. And if you can get an herbicide to soak into the leaf at that time, it's going to push it down into the roots. So timing is important. There's many different herbicides. They all work differently. So if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or your local garden center, pick one, read the label before you even buy it. Open it up and read the label. They don't mind. And it'll tell you it controls Bermuda grass in your turf if you follow these rules. Mix it at this dose, at this timing, whatever, and follow those. That's the best way to do it. There are other ways. If you have Bermuda grass in your turf and you don't want it in there, making the conditions ideal for your fescue turf. So watering your fescue deeply once a week so that you have a nice thick stand of fescue. Fertilizing your fescue in the spring and the fall when the Bermuda grass isn't taking it up, but the fescue is because it's active at lower temperatures.
Yeah.
Helps if you let your grass grow, mowing at the right height. If you let it grow to about 3.5 inches, which is right for tall fescue, it's shading the ground, preventing those seeds from germinating as easily. So there's a lot of things you can do that don't kill the Bermuda grass, but make your other plants so healthy that they can kind of keep it at bay. All right, let's go to the next plant. This weed here is the scourge of pretty much every single gardener, whether you're talking about turf weeds or garden bed weeds or even container weeds. This is crabgrass, and you can think of crabgrass in the narrow sense as being one or two species of Digitaria, but in the broad sense, there are a lot of annual grasses that kind of had this wide spreading habit that are in multiple genera. So this is an annual weed. It comes in from seed, and you can see it grows very rapidly when the weather is warm like it is here in July. And it can overrun, in a turf setting, it can overrun your turf. It can grow faster than it. So you mow your grass, and then a day or two later, you can see the crabgrass poking above your fescue. Here in a garden bed, you can see it spreads wide. And if this garden bed had smaller plants in it, it could overrun those and choke them out. So this is crabgrass, an annual weed. And it's not that hard to pull out, and you can hoe it out certainly, but it is just extremely prolific this time of year because of the temperature. Yeah, and when I say hoe out crabgrass, I mean you want to hoe the seedlings when they're small, okay? When you're using a hoe, what you're going after are the little seedling plants, not the big adult plants. You would need more of a digging tool to get that crabgrass out. So crabgrass, another one of these introduced weeds, and you can thank the U.S. government for bringing this into the country. Back in the 1800s, of course, the government's always trying to look for good agricultural crops, and they brought this in as a forage plant. And of course, it escaped very quickly, and now it's everywhere. It's native to like Europe, but it is a weed everywhere in the whole world. Okay, ancient Europeans actually grew this as a grain crop, and not one that you harvest with a machine and you get all the grains at once, but you go every week and pick off a few. So before kind of pre-farming or famine type food. And of course, cows and stuff like to eat it too. And it's a big problem because it's an annual. It sprouts from seed, then it grows into this big patch, which makes a hole for itself and it smothers the things that are around it. Then when it gets cold in the fall, it dies and it leaves this hole behind. And that hole then is space for a seed to land and grow up the following year. And it does do well at any kind of disturbed site, a site like that, or let's say you've gone to Home Depot and bought all your annuals and you've dug in the ground, cleared the mulch away and planted your plant. Well, you've just disturbed all that soil and brought any crabgrass seeds to the surface. So if you don't put that mulch back, you're going to get those little seedlings coming up. Crabgrass is a summer annual grass. So those are these ways we're going to put it in a cubby hole to tell us how to control it. As a summer annual, that means it germinates in the spring, early in the spring. The Farmer's Almanac way is when your forsythia is in bloom, the temperatures are right for your crabgrass to start germinating.
Okay.
So that's when you want to put down your pre-emergent is right then, the week before your crabgrass starts to germinate. Your pre-emergence will last a couple of months, so you can go back a few weeks from there. So it germinates in the spring, and then it grows in the summer, and then forms seed and dies. So being a summer annual tells you can control it by attacking the seed bank, and not even letting it germinate.
For
right?
sure.
So you do that. You can do that with pre-emergence. Actually, a week or two before you put down your pre-emergence, you can go in and on your garden beds put a couple inches of fresh new mulch. Okay, keep the light off of those seeds and prevent them from even germinating in the first place. So mulch in the late winter. If you do get it and it's in your turf, mow your turf regularly to prevent seed heads from forming. As an annual, you are attacking the seed bank. Post-emergence work fine too. If you can get some Roundup in it in your bed without hitting anything else, that'll kill it.
I'd say looking at the morphology of the plant, I think mowing it could help some, but I don't think that's going to be 100% control because it does grow a little bit prostrate and it might miss.
Yeah, those things that are growing prostrate are called tillers, and they actually root at the nodes. So the bigger you let that clump get, it'll get more and more roots on it.
Yeah.
The seed heads grow up. So, if you can't mow over them and get the seeds, like it's in a bed or up against a fence or something, weed whack it.
Yeah, for sure.
Just do whatever you can to knock those seed heads down.
Absolutely. Either way, it's a good practice to be a part of your integrated pest management to just like keep those seed numbers down.
Yeah. And if the time of year is right and you have a bunch of little seedlings and they're in an easy spot to get to with a hoe, you can hoe it. You saw I hand pulled it. That was nice, loose JCRA soil. You might not have such good, easy soil to pull stuff out of, but it can be hand pulled. Crabgrass, like a lot of these other weeds, is an indicator plant, and it is an indicator of poor lawn health. Okay, a good thick stand of lawn that's properly watered, properly fertilized, mowed at the right height, and all that is often too thick for the seeds to get started in. So if you're having crabgrass problems in your lawn, that is do better for your lawn, and and you'll have fewer crabgrass problems. I mentioned it's in the genus Digitaria. There are actually two crabgrasses, Digitaria sanguinalis and this name Digitaria ischaeumum, the large crabgrass and the smooth crabgrass. And then I mentioned that there's a lot of other annual grasses. You know, you've got your barnyard grass and crowfoot grass and goose grass and any number of other grasses, and they're all summer annuals, all the ones I mentioned. And so they all have the same treatment pattern.
Sure.
Mulch, pre-emergence, don't let them go to seed.
Sure. Marilyn's saying that people say that crabgrass germinates in the spring, but she sees new plants coming up all summer long. So does she need to put down pre-emergent every few months during the warm season?
Yeah, so pre-emergent lasts a few months. You put it down let's say you put it down in March. The seeds can germinate over the entire growing season, especially if you're out there raking or planting plants or whatever and creating new places for sunlight to get down to the seed. You can also put pre-emergent down a second time in June, and it'll last a couple more months and get you past the summer annual season. So you could do a pre-emergent twice. Always read the label, always follow the label. Okay, depends on the pre-emergent, depends on the brand, whatever. So I'm just telling you generalities here. Now, some of these other grasses, you can consider them, and I'm gonna use air quotes here just as in the broad sense, crabgrass. And they have the same treatments. Not all of these summer grasses are annual. So Bermuda grass, like we just talked about, and a few other grasses, Dallas grass, are actual perennials, and you have to attack them a different way. We're gonna talk about how do you identify plants in a little bit if we get there. Okay, let's go to the next plant, summerweed number 3. Okay, so here, amongst the crabgrass, which we're gonna talk about in a different video, we have another big summer weed in North Carolina gardens, yellow nutsedge. It's one of two types of nutsedges you find in gardens, and it is particularly troublesome because it grows in both beds, as you see here, and in turf. In turf, it's a problem because it grows so much faster than your turf. You can cut your grass, and a few days later, you have this nutsedge poking up above. It is also deceptively hard to control. It's easy to pull. And you can see I pulled it all the way out by the roots, but what happened when I pulled it out is it broke off rhizomes and nutlets that are underground that it'll just pop back up again from. This really is only easily controlled using chemicals. So that's yellow nutsedge. Okay, so I said in the video 2 species of nutsedge. There's actually more like 4 or 5 that are common in gardens. We kind of think of them all as yellow nutsedge, but they're not. Yellow nutsedge is a particular species, Cyperus esculentus, but there's purple nutsedge, and there's cylindric nutsedge, and there's annual nutsedge, and there's green kalinga, and these are all found in gardens all over the Southeast. This is although it looks like a grass, it's not a grass, and your treatment is a little bit different because it's not a grass. It's actually a sedge. different plant family altogether, Cyperaceae. And as a sedge, there are chemicals out there, herbicides out there that are selective. They're much more toxic to sedges than anything else. So if you follow the instructions right and do the right dose and the right timing, you hit a sedge, even in the middle of a patch of turf or the middle of an ornamental bed, it will selectively kill. It kills the nut sedge more than it kills anything else. And that's a real good way to control these sedge weeds in your garden. Sedge hammer is one of the names of one of the products. I love that name, sedge hammer. And you have to buy, it comes in teeny tiny little bottles, and the bottles are pretty expensive, but a little bit goes a long way. Even a teeny tiny little 4-ounce bottle is enough to do a whole neighborhood. So go in with your neighbors and split the cost. And because you'll never, if you have a typical yard, half acre, quarter acre, whatever, you'll never use even 4 ounces of this stuff. You're putting little parts of a teaspoon into a gallon of water to treat your nut sedge. So you want to hit it with a sedge-based herbicide or a sedge targeting herbicide. Time of year that it gets down into those rhizomes and bulbs to kill them. It is very pernicious. It grows like Bermuda grass. It can grow up through mulch from the bulb. It can grow up through a weed fabric. It'll just poke a little hole right in it and come up through it. It normally on its own will get to be maybe 15 inches tall at biggest. But if it's in a little bit of shade, like if it's in your daylily bed, it'll happily grow to 2 or 3 feet just to get above the daylilies. I didn't mention it, but there are some pre-emergents that you can use. But it's really best handled with the sedge-specific herbicides. It's an indicator plant that perhaps maybe if nut sedge is growing there and nothing else, that perhaps your soil is too moist there and you have a drainage issue and you need to improve your drainage and make that site better for other plants so that they can have a fighting chance against the nut sedge.
And I love that concept that like the weed is just a symptom of the problem, that there's these cultural issues with the environment where these plants are, that if you address those, then it's not as easy for the weeds to get established and that you got a lot more goodness going in your garden.
Yeah, it's a little more holistic, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about the chemical that you spray on it or the tool that you use to attack it. It's about creating the environment. It's that ecological aspect of growing plants that helps you keep your weeds under control.
Yeah.
All right, let's look up some trivia. Okay, so this is a plant. It grows native to like Egypt and Asia Minor and over to India and stuff like that. It was brought to the U.S. as a food crop. Okay, in that part of the world, it's grown for its bulbs, and they harvest the bulbs. One plant can make hundreds and hundreds of little bulbs, and they're called chufa. And you can buy them in health food stores even today, bags of chufa. Don't plant them. And they have a mildly sweet almond-like flavor. So yeah, very pleasant. And you can boil them up or mash them up. In Latin America, they make a drink called horchata, which is this mashed up bulb, makes a milky looking substance. You add some sugar and some ice and some cinnamon, you have a delicious drink. The restaurant down the street sells it. I love it. It's good. So it was brought in the mid 1800s by the U.S. government, thanks government, as a food crop, potentially. It quickly escaped and now is one of the top 15 weeds in the United States. All right. Let's see, anything else? Oh yeah, this plant is also being in the genus Cyperus is a close relative of some ornamental plants that we grow. One that's over here on the plant cart and behind me, there's a big patch of it, Cyperus alternifolius, the umbrella sedge. Same genus, it's a cousin of nut sedge. And it's a wonderful little annual for wet soils. Actually, I think this one might be a little perennial for us. It's listed as a zone 9 plant, but plants don't read those zones, so this one comes back. And papyrus, the plant that the Egyptians made paper out of, is also a Cyperus. So this is first cousins to a couple of pretty cool plants, actually. All right, I'm gonna move on to summer weed number 4. Okay, so this weed here, it's a weed to some. It's actually, I'm going to tell you that you should keep it and encourage it to grow. This is white clover, and it normally invades turf. And you can see our whole great lawn here is filled with this stuff. And we encourage it. It's one of those plants you don't want to get rid of necessarily. You want to try and encourage it and keep it. Not only is it pretty with the little white flowers, those flowers attract pollinators, so you can have that kinetic energy in your garden of the pollinators going around. So it supports them. This is also in the Fabaceae family, and it fixes nitrogen into the soil. So it's actually healthy for your grass to have some clover mixed in. It's one of those plants that sometimes farmers will use on fallow fields in order to fix nitrogen. So this is white clover. That is indeed how clover got to the United States, is through the agriculture. They've been farming it for over 1,000 years in Europe as a fallow field crop of green manure and as a crop for forage, for animal feed. And so, sure, the farmers come over here from Europe, and sure, they're going to bring this great little crop along with them. So I don't consider it a weed at all, although some people do. And I'm going to tell you how to control it, but you shouldn't control it. You should let it go. It does spread by stolon. And in fact, the species name of clover is Trifolium repens, and repens means spreading. Trifolium means 3 leaves. And if you're unlucky, you get a 3-leaf clover. If you're lucky, you get a 4-leaf one, which is rare. It is a perennial, and it's an evergreen perennial, so it actually looks nice in your turf. And it's a broadleaf. So that's a new term. In turf grass, if you have broadleaf weeds that are not in the grass family, there are chemicals that target them. You can spray the turf and the weeds together, and the turf is fine, and the broadleaves go away. So broadleaf herbicides, selective herbicides you can use. But don't. It's a good lawn alternative. Some people are growing whole lawns of nothing but clover. It's not tolerant to foot traffic like your turf grass is. So if you're not playing soccer in your yard, it's a good lawn alternative. But if you are, maybe not. Honeybees love it. It's the bees that are the pollinators of it. And it's edible, actually. The leaves are edible, raw, in a salad. You add them to a salad. You can cook them like spinach. And they're probably better cooked than they are raw. But it is totally edible. The flowers are edible too. And you can dry the flowers and grind them up into a powder, and you can use it kind of like flour as well. So it's one of those edible weeds. There's several weeds that are edible. I'm going to mention another one in my list is also edible. How do you control it? Well, our lawn here, the reason we have so much of it is we mow our lawn kind of low because our main turf is Bermuda grass. And you mow Bermuda grass low. And that is allowing enough sunlight in for the clover to persist. If you have fescue and you have clover in your fescue and you don't want it, which you should, but you don't, mow your turf grass a little bit lower, and the additional light, don't mow your grass. Mow your grass at the right height, 3.5 inches, and the shade keeps it out because it's overshading the clover and preventing those seeds from germinating. So proper lawn height is a way to control it if you don't want it, which you should want it. I'm going to keep saying that over and over again until everyone believes it. So let's see, any other cool, most of the clover you come across is this white flowered variety, Trifolium repens. There is a pinkish purplish flowered variety called Trifolium pratense, which is also common, not as common, but you do find it. I found it here at the Arboretum or in the back 40. And so you do see that sometimes as well. So if you are walking through, you didn't discover a new pink flowered clover. It's called red clover. It's just its name. And when you mow your grass, they end up all being the same height and looking very similar. So yeah, as an indicator plant, it is indication of your yard not having enough fertilizer or being mown at the right height. So if you have clover, that is what it's telling you. That's why it's there. It's an indicator of that.
I love that. Dennis, the weed whisperer.
Weed whisperer. Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's go on to the next plant. So this is, of course, English ivy, Hedera helix, and it was a very, very popular ground cover plant 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. So you find it everywhere. It's today, because it is so kind of, I don't want to say invasive, but it spreads pretty aggressively and can cover desirous plants. People today are encouraged not to grow this anymore. So we're going to call it a weed for this example. And if you can see, without control, it will spread along the ground. This is a fairly small patch. It can spread acres and acres and acres, forming these woody stems with aerial roots that grab onto everything and smother everything. But it also likes to climb. So you can see it here climbing this tree, and it will climb houses, and these aerial roots have been known to pick away at brick and things like that. And it can be unsightly, although some people still really like the look of it, and some people, you can still buy English ivy in the store as an ornamental. We really don't recommend it. We kind of consider it a weed here, and we're trying to get rid of it. Which is difficult to do. It's got a thick, waxy covering on the leaf, which repels herbicides. And because it kind of roots in everywhere, if you need to pull it out with some physical controls, you have to, it's not just finding where the base is and cutting it once. You have to find everywhere it's rooted in and keep cutting it and cutting it and cutting it. So it's a very difficult thing to control once you have it. All right, English ivy. Brought to the United States in the 1700s as an ornamental plant. It's a shade, evergreen ground cover.
That's a lot of boxes. Very useful plant.
It's an extremely useful plant, and it makes a good house plant. And if you want to grow it today as a house plant, go right ahead.
Honestly.
There's a lot of cool leaf forms of it, variegation and leaf shapes and things like that. Back when I was a grower, the place where I worked at, they did grow ivy, and they had about a couple of dozen different cultivars.
Sure.
And there is an ivy society that has hundreds of cultivars of these things. But it is, once it escapes the garden and gets out into the wild, it seeds around and it covers large patches of land, and in the shade it chokes out these shade natives, and it can actually cover a tree so thickly that it shades out the tree leaves and causes the tree to go into decline. It can be so heavy on the tree that it makes the tree more prone to breakage. If it's growing on a structure, like I mentioned in the video, it can eat away the mortar between your bricks. If you have siding, aluminum siding or vinyl siding, it can get so heavy. That siding is just tacked on with little nails. And
right.
It can be heavy enough, it can pull the siding down.
No kidding.
If it's on a painted surface, it can cause the paint, shorten the life of the paint job. So it is problematic, even though it is a pretty weed. Herbicides, you want to get them early in the season on the new growth. As the new leaves come out, the cuticle is not so thick yet. So you can spray it on the ends of those. One way to do that. If it's in the ground, you can just keep mowing it. And if you keep mowing it over and over again, it will eventually die. You will sap it of its strength. Let's see, do I have any cool trivia about
How
ivy?
about it doesn't set seed until it starts climbing?
That is a neat bit of trivia, and thank you. I didn't even have that. So the ivy that you see on the ground is actually a juvenile individual plant, okay? And it is not sexually mature and does not flower and produce seeds. As it climbs, once it gets up to a certain height, being a certain height above the ground triggers a transition from juvenility into adulthood. And the plant that is the adult plant up in the trees is actually a woody shrub, and with a different leaf shape and everything. You wouldn't even necessarily recognize it as ivy. And then that forms flowers and produces seeds, and the seeds are black and fruits, and the birds like to eat them and poop them out, and that's how you spread it.
Yeah.
These ivy societies will actually propagate and sell adult ivies too. If you can climb up in the tree and get a cutting, it'll root from the cutting. Sure. And then you can have a shrub in your yard. It'll grow in the soil just fine. That is ivy.
No kidding.
But it is flowering and fruiting, which you don't necessarily want it to. So that's ivy. All right, let's go to the next plant. Number 6. So this weed here, which you're gonna, this time of year in the summer, you're gonna commonly find in the cracks of your sidewalk, in your containers, and somewhat also in your garden beds, is called prostrate spurge. Some people also call it spotted spurge. Now it's very, very low growing, so it's not gonna overtake even a small plant, but it's a nuisance because it has a very short generation time and produces hundreds of thousands of seeds per plant. So it's very, very seedy little herb. It also produces a latex out of the broken stems, and some people are allergic to that latex. So you will find this time of year in the middle of the summer, mostly growing in the cracks of your sidewalks. Sometimes in your containers, and frequently it'll jump up into your beds where you don't have a lot of mulch or anything else to prevent it from growing. All right, yeah, it is an indicator plant. If you find it in your garden, it's an indicator that A, you need to put some mulch down, and B, that your soil is too dry and compacted. It's such a pernicious weed because it has that short generation time and is extremely seedy. It makes so many seeds. In the picture here on the slide, you can see I zoomed in, that brick is 4 inches wide. So you can see those individual leaves are just 2 or 3 millimeters wide. And if you zoom in even more, you can see the flowers are just maybe a millimeter wide, but they're everywhere. This particular one is prostrate spurge, Euphorbia prostrata. And then there's another species that looks exactly the same, except the stems are not red, they are green, and it has spots on the leaves. That's spotted spurge, Euphorbia maculata. You can hand pull it if you can get to it. Like in that little crack there, it'd be very hard to get to, but they make tools called crack weeders. Silly name, but they can dig down there. It's kind of thicker than a knife blade and sideways, so you can drag it through the cracks in your patio and get those out. If it's growing in your pots, like you said, pull the plants out and then put down some mulch in your pots, like some rice hulls or something. Yeah. Something to keep the sunlight off those seeds, because undoubtedly there are lots of seeds in your pots.
Yes.
When you pull the plants, in all likelihood, it already has flowers and seeds on it. So put them in your mulch pile, properly compost them, put them in your green recycling bin, or just get rid of them. Put them in a bucket. Don't even carry them in your hand.
Honestly.
They're going to drop seed everywhere. So put them in a bucket after you pull them. It's one of these plants, also like Bermuda grass, loves the hot temperatures. It grows very, very, very well at very hot temperatures. The latex is not just a potential skin irritant. I'm not allergic to it, which is why you saw me handling it. But it is a very strong eye irritant. So if you get it on your fingers and then rub your eye, then you've got a problem. It is also toxic. Now, you're not going to eat it, but if you're like my dog at home who likes to go out in the backyard and eat something when he has a tummy ache, he could be, if I have spurge back there, he could be ingesting something that's toxic for him. It's not too hard to pull. It does have a tap root, so you want to make sure and get that tap root if you can. And so you're going to, if the soil's loose, it'll come right out, but you might need a digging tool to get that. Let's see, pre-emergence and post-emergence will work on it. Okay, so it's a native plant. It is not a introduced weed, so that's interesting. And being in the genus Euphorbia, it is kissing cousins to a lot of garden ornamental plants. There's euphorbias that are tall with colorful leaves, and we love growing them. And every Christmas you buy a euphorbia in the form of poinsettia, and so it is a weedy cousin of some really good garden plants. All right, that's number 6. This is the last one we're going to cover. I saw that comment from Marilyn. Are we going to cover mulberry weed? No, we're not. There's only time in this to cover 7 weeds, and I just picked 7 that are everywhere that I could find, and we could do a video short on.
For sure. So I will play the video, and we are running very short on time, so I don't know that we'll make it to the second part of your presentation.
Yeah, no problem.
Which is fair, because there was already the suggestion that we do a part 2 of this program. So
with so many weeds in the garden, we could do a part 10. This could be like a Fast and Furious movie series, Every summer we come out with another one.
Yes.
This next weed I want to show you is one of the 2 weedy species of oxalis you find in gardens. This is the Oxalis stricta with yellow flowers, and it appears, can be a problem in turf. It can be a problem in garden beds like you see here. It can also be a problem in containers. And the main problem with having this is that these little seed pods you see here are explosively dehiscent and will throw seeds many meters away from the parent plant. But on the other hand, the good thing about this is that it is edible, all parts of it, and they have a lemony taste. Yeah, people will eat the leaves just right off the plant. Have you ever done that?
I sure have done that. I've done that while I was weeding pots, just out of curiosity. Somebody had mentioned that it's edible, and it's like, come on now. And I tried it, and I was very pleasantly surprised. It's actually quite nice. It really does belong in a salad. You would actually improve salads by adding oxalis to them.
Sure, you put it in a salad. You can, people will actually steep the leaves in hot water and make a lemonade-like drink, add a little sugar.
Yeah, it's tangy, it's bright, it's delightful for sure.
And the thing that makes it sour is oxalic acid. Okay, so you don't want to eat too much of this.
Sure.
Like, don't eat a big pile of it. Mix it in. Okay, oxalic acid can prevent you from properly absorbing calcium. So it's not a poison, but you don't want to eat too much of it either. Okay, what else? I basically said everything in there in the video. You hand pull it. It's got a rhizome.
Yeah, it sure does. And that's what I was about to say. The one thing about hand pulling it is that it's got a rhizome. Like, that root goes deep, and it's one of those ones that easily snaps off. So like, you're going to want to get like a chopstick and get down in there and get that root out, or you again, you're just pruning the thing.
So it's a perennial, it's a broadleaf weed. So you can use broadleaf herbicides if herbicides are your thing. And otherwise, you just got to dig it out. That picture down in the lower left, that's a potted plant on my patio, and oxalis is the worst weed that I have in my containers.
Sure.
So what's my trivia about it? Oh, the genus oxalis comes from the Greek word for sour. Okay, and pretty much every oxalis is lemony and is edible. This one here I'm showing you is Oxalis stricta. There's another one that occurs more frequently in turf. It's much lower growing. It's got purple leaves and tiny little yellow flowers. It's Oxalis corniculata, and I let it grow in my turf at home. I love it. It's beautiful, having these little teeny tiny little yellow flowers dotted throughout the turf. I like clover too. You know, I like having flowers in my turf, and I've actually put bulbs in my turf too, crocus and things, because I like that look. Let's see, there's Oxalis crucipes is an ornamental plant that you see for sale to put in your garden beds. And it's taller and it makes a nicer mound than selected varieties do. It also seeds around and throws those seeds, and if you plant Oxalis crucipes in your bed, you're likely to end up having it also in your turf, but it's much bigger and easier to control. Just mow your turf and you'll get rid of that. Okay, so that was the 7 summer weeds for southern gardens. You can tell I like alliteration. And so maybe we'll do a part 2, and we can. Yeah. You guys can put some weeds into the chat on YouTube, and we can get some ideas for sure next time.
I think we should do a part 2 because we've already got suggestions for mulberry weed and Japanese stilt grass, as well as burr weed, and then I'm sure there will be just a huge inundation of other weeds to cover. And like Dennis has a whole bunch of like props and stuff.
I brought a whole bunch of show and tells, and I didn't even get to them. I'm going to hold them up while they play the exit credits.
Well, we did have a handful of questions, just a handful, just a brief handful. Sharon wanted to know, isn't there a function of Bermuda grass?
The function of Bermuda, well, it's a turf grass. It's a valid turf grass for some people, and it's a valid forage grass in agricultural situations. So it does have a useful function to human beings, but it is also a pest to human beings. Depends on the human. You know, if you're a farmer who wants to grow it for the reasons that I just said, it's great. But if you're a farmer that doesn't want it in his tomato patch or his strawberry patch, it's a big bummer, right? Or you don't want it in your petunias.
Yeah. For sure. We just got to open our hearts a little bit more and accept plants being where they are. That's the key.
Yeah. I'm seeing more weeds pop up on the chat.
Good.
Poison ivy, help.
Yeah, but poison ivy is native and it's beautiful.
You know what? When they first, when Europeans were first coming over here, they were shipping it back to England as an ornamental plant because it turns red in the fall, has fall foliage.
For sure.
I am so incredibly allergic to that stuff. I can't stand it. Yeah, we'll put that one in the next one for sure.
Surely, in the next one. And that's what we'll say in the next one, too, when we don't get that far even.
Yeah.
Okay. Nancy is asking, if you spray post-emergent on seeds, does it kill the seed as well?
No, the seeds has that seed coat. It's impermeable to chemicals. The chemicals don't last forever. They last days, weeks, or months, depending on the chemical. And that seed can sit there for weeks, months, or years, depending on the plant. And it lasts longer than the chemicals. So no.
Yeah. And that's the distinction. It's pre-emergent versus post-emergent. So pre-emergent goes on seeds before they've emerged, and post-emergent goes on the plant after it's
and technically, the pre-emergent isn't affecting the seed either. It's affecting the seedling. Because the pre-emergents, you lay them down and you water them in, and they make a 1/4 of an inch thick shell of poison on top of on the soil. And most of your garden plants have roots below that and are not affected by this shell. But the little seeds that are on the surface, as soon as they germinate and that first little root comes out, it takes up the poison and kills that germinating plant.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fantastic, Dennis. So that is all of the time that we had and all of the questions, coincidentally. Not all of the weeds and the weed knowledge that we had to share, but
there's a lot of weeds.
What can you do? So,
well, what we can do is do another one of these things in a few months or whatever. And we just talked about summer weeds today. We can do another one of these in April when the winter weeds are at full size, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So absolutely, we will put that on the calendar. We will make that happen.
Until we meet again, right?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Dennis. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today on the Midweek program. We will be back next Wednesday. I cannot even begin to tell you what we're going to be doing next week because it's the interns are taking over the Midweek program, and that information lies safely within their minds. So I hope you will join us next week on the Midweek program to see what the interns have to teach us. It should be all kinds of fun. We will see you all next time. Y'all take care.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.